Welcome to everyone. This is Baburao Kunchala. So now I would like to discuss about state of extrajudicial killings in India. Why we need to discuss about this topic? The main important thing. Why in news? What is the role of the judiciary and what is the role of the state? Where we need to understand all these. So now I would like to discuss about these state of extrajudicial killings in India. So which is very important for all competitive exams and particularly for UPSC exam. This mains point of view it's very important. So now here why in news? This is very important. The Uttar Pradesh Special Task Force has recently encountered two persons who are wanted in connection with the Umesh Paul murder case. That's why it's recently in news. So, what are extrajudicial killings? That is also very important. The extrajudicial killings are, it refers to the deliberate unlawful killings of an accused person by any government authority outside of any legal framework is popularly known as encounters. So this is called extrajudicial killings. So now here, if you observe, it is illegal as it violates the basic human rights guaranteed to every individual. Right? So now, these extrajudicial killings, that is accused a person in such cases is not even given a right to prove himself or herself innocent before the court of law. Right? That's why it is completely illegal. It's not a legal one. So the physical torture, sexual harassment or mental torture of the accused in custody, that is custodial violence, also comes under the ambit of extrajudicial killings. This all comes under extrajudicial killings. So now, what is the status of extrajudicial killings in India? What is the status? According to a report, for the last 6 years, the cases of encounter killings have increased nearly fivefold. The cases are increased now. India has seen a 50% decline in registration of encounters killing cases in the 6 years between 2016 to 17 and 2021 to 2022. These extrajudicial killings, the cases shot up by 69.5% in the last 2 years. From 2021 to 2022 or 2022. This is, now here shot up by 69.5%. So now here, what are the reason for extrajudicial killings? Is there any reason for that? Why these governments also doing this one, extrajudicial killings? So most of the persons aware of this one, it is against the fundamental rights. So now first one here, the main reason for that, extrajudicial killings are public support. People often support these extrajudicial killings because they think that the court will not provide timely justice. That is one of the problems. And people also giving support to that. And next, second point here, political support also. Extrajudicial killings are considered as the achievements of ruling political party and gather a greater support from the public. And political people also may get support from the public because population. That is one more reason for that. Now work pressure also one of the reason. Third one. Pressure from the government as well as public. In important cases results in brutal behavior by the police in criminals for getting information or to get their confession. That is also important. And fourth one here, a punitive violence. Many police officials believe that the only way to control the crime and criminals is to torture the criminals so that people should have a state of fear in their mind when they are about to commit a crime. That is also maybe reason. So next one here, a positive reinforcement. The officers executing these killings are considered heroes in society, as the public thinks such killings to be the best way of cleaning up society. That is also one of the reason. That's why then you can see the extrajudicial killings. A lack of proper training, absence of legitimate preparation of police authorities regularly increase the third degree techniques. That is also one of the reason. Next one here, inefficiency of police also. Encounters are an easy way to create an image that law and order are being maintained in the area. That is also one of the reason. So now here, what is the legislative status in India? But anyway, people and political all these members are supporting. Then what is the legislative status in India? That is the next big question. The legislative status in India. A legislation, now law in India exclusively defines encounter killings. Is there any law? No law in India exclusively defines encounter killings. What are the encounter killings? There is no law. And next one here, but it will be classified under cases registered against the state police personnel for human rights violation in the National Crime Records Bureau, that is NCRB. This is the position. Next one here, India Penal Code, section from 96 to 106 of Indian Penal Code 1860 deals with the right to private defense. That's one of the provision. Under this section, death in an encounter will not amount to a criminal offense when it is done as self-defense. But now it comes under self-defense. Now next one here, Criminal Procedure Code, section 46 of the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 allow the police officers to use any degree of force which is required to arrest the accused or prevent the accused from escaping. That is also one of the reasons. So now we have Supreme Court. Supreme Court in 2014, the Supreme Court in the People's Union for Civil Liberties versus State of Maharashtra case formulated 16-point guidelines and extrajudicial killings. 16-point guidelines for extrajudicial killings, and this Supreme Court mentioned in 2014. So now here, National Human Rights Commission in 1997, the National Human Rights Commission under the chairmanship of Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya is issued a guideline for encounter cases. So what are the guidelines here? So now the Supreme Court in Om Prakash versus State of Jharkhand in 2012 stated that extrajudicial killings are not recognized as illegal by our criminal justice administration system, and they amount to state-sponsored terrorism. This is the first year we need to understand. The Supreme Court particularly mentioned in Om Prakash versus State of Jharkhand in 2012 stated that extrajudicial killings are not recognized as illegal by our criminal justice organization system, and they amount to state-sponsored terrorism. So now here, what are the guidelines provided by the Supreme Court and the NHRC? Is there any guidelines? Is there any guidelines provided by the National Human Rights Commission or Supreme Court? Yes, of course. There are 16-point guidelines. In People's Union for Civil Liberties versus State of Maharashtra in 2014, the Supreme Court provided 16-point guidelines, and 16-point guidelines to be followed during the investigation of police encounters. This is the first one Supreme Court providing here. Next one, the guidelines included the first one here, mandatory registration of FIR. That's the first guideline issued by the Supreme Court. And second guideline here, provisions for magisterial inquiry. That is also required. And third one here, keeping the written records, intelligence inputs. The written records intelligence input. That is the third one. Next one here, independent investigation by bodies such as the CIDs. That is also providing. That is also one of the included. And next one here, the court directed that these norms must be strictly observed as a law declared under Article 141 of the Indian Constitution. These are the guidelines provided by the Supreme Court. So now here Article number 141 says that the law declared by the Supreme Court shall be binding on all other courts in Indian territory. Shall be binding on all other courts in Indian territory. 141. The guidelines which is designed by the Supreme Court, that is applicable to everyone and in all territories in India. So next one here, prior to the Supreme Court guidelines, the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, under the chairmanship of Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya, issued a guideline for encounter cases in 1997. He also issued some guidelines. So now here, what are the guidelines? It deals the procedure to be followed, obligation of states compensation to be awarded. Right? So now here, then what are the steps to be taken? Is there any steps to be taken? So now the first point here, mandatory FIR. To make amendments in the CRPC, that is Criminal Procedure Code, to provide for mandatory registration of FIR where a public servant causes death of person in self-defense. That is also mandatory for FIR. And second point here, UN Convention Against Torture. United Nations Convention Against Torture. India should take immediate measure to ratify UN Convention Against Torture and the enactment of Prevention of Torture Bill 2017. That is also one this step taken by the Government of India. Next one here, the UN Convention Against Torture is an international human rights treaty adopted in 1984. So India signed the treaty but not yet ratified it. That is very, very important. India also signed this treaty but not ratified it. So now here, implementation is one of the major things. Ensure the strict implementation and monitoring of Supreme Court and the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, guidelines on fake encounter deaths. But training program also required. Training the police officials to handle every unforeseen situation and protect the accused in police custody is essential. That is also one thing. So this is the final thing here, guidelines everyone should take, and government should take these steps to put the end for the fake